Hello, and welcome to the Looking Place podcast, where we seek to guide our listeners in a journey of helping discover your intrinsic power. I'm T.
And I'm Mel. Thank you
Again,
so much for being here.
thank you.
Yes, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Looking Place. And today I have a special guest. And guess what? The guest is T.
What's
And
up, y'all?
T, yeah, yes. So T is a phenomenal woman. And I've been getting to know T over this last year, just more. And she's just kind of very unspoken about a lot of things. She's very deep. So I want her to share a lot about how she got from point A to point B in her life. It's very amazing. And so I'm excited, but I'll let her
Thank
tell
you.
you about herself, this phenomenal woman that she is. And you guys are in for a treat. So,
Oh, I appreciate that. Just to hear
mhm.
words like that for a person that I regard you as an amazing human being. So grateful that God brought us into interaction. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
That's very humble,
Mhm.
just a blessing.
Mhm.
I am Black woman. I'm a mother.
Mhm.
A mother of two sons, two beautiful human beings. And I'm a physical therapist assistant by trade. What
Mhm.
I was saying earlier, I am a lover of life now.
Mm.
I don't, just so y'all know, we had some technical difficulties. We started recording, got through about 15 minutes, and then it's like, oh no, we don't with the
Right, right.
internet, like, no, we're not gonna keep on that track. So I don't want to try to recapture what it was that we just said a few
Mhm.
minutes ago. I just want to stay in the presence of God. But I
Mhm.
want to say that to say, um, I am so grateful to now be at this position in life where I can truly say, I love the fact that I chose to come into this human experience to live this life because that was
Mm.
not always the case.
That
There was
warms
a
my
point,
heart. I love
thank
it.
you. No, it's truly meant. There was a time where that was not my
Mhm.
energy, that was not my experience, that was not my reality. I quite literally at a point in my life did not want to be here, made
Mhm.
efforts to not be here. And I'm so glad that through the grace of God, that
Mhm.
all of that was purposeful,
Mhm.
but I was able at some point, again, through the grace of God, to come into a state of awareness as to where the suffering was coming from.
Mm.
And it was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was my identity. I became, there was a time in my, and I'll say, I'll try not to jump all around. I've always known that there was a presence, so to speak, from childhood, from a little girl. There were times that I could reflect back on situations or
Mhm.
something speaking to me or just
Mhm.
the awareness that there was something else beyond what my physical eyes could see or my physical ears could hear or touch or like I just didn't have the language or the understanding of it at that time. I was too young,
Mhm.
and that's a part of the
Mhm.
process, right? And
Right.
so now that my journey has become much more intentional, less random, as you helped me to identify, now
Mhm.
I'm able to identify that every phase and stage of my life, even at the what I would perceive as the lowest points of again not wanting to be here, it was all purposeful. It all
Mm.
had
Oh,
purpose.
yes. I
Yeah,
feel that.
yeah. And so
Wow.
for me, my awareness kind of slapped me in the face about 10 years ago where I was like, okay, I'm afraid to be happy. Let's just be
Mhm.
all over real with this. I
Mhm.
am afraid to be happy. You know,
Mhm.
growing
Mhm.
up I will never ever ever disrespect religion. I think religion is beautiful. I think all religions have merit and origin
Mhm.
stories. But in my experience of practicing religion, practicing Christianity, and I'll be very
Mhm.
clear in those words,
Mhm.
it was all about the suffering. It was all about the struggle Olympics. It was all about the I can persevere and endure. And at any
And
slightest
the more you
moment,
suffer, the kind of like
okay, the closer
the
to
more
God.
spiritual. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
to
get
really
that.
like abided in that. Like if I
Mhm.
suffer enough, God, will you love
Mhm.
me? Will you accept me? Because in
I
my
get that.
mind, in my physical human mind, oh girl, I was going to
Mhm.
hell every day in every way for every reason, for every thought, for every action, for every I was
Right.
perpetually going to hell.
Right.
going to hell, as in this place that I was going to go to when no, that hell was right then and there. That's where
Right.
hell was. And I didn't identify that. And then when I
Mm.
came to the realization and the understanding and the awareness, oh, you're afraid to be happy. The thing that you say you want, you keep pushing it away because it's so unfamiliar.
Wow.
The trauma was familiar, the drama was familiar, the suffering was familiar. And I said I
Mm.
didn't want it, but I invited it in every way, shape, and form because it's what I felt was
Right.
my duty to connect to God. Now, that was
Yeah.
my experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm at a place now where, I've done different things to connect to God, different techniques, religion. And now I've just come into this state of understanding and really abiding in the beautiful simplicity of being in my God energy.
Mm.
Because it is quite simple when you let it be, but
It's just simple.
yeah,
Mm.
it takes some work to transcend the mind because ultimately that's
Mm-hmm.
what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. Because the mind just likes to rule,
Yeah.
and we just think that the mind is the boss, but we don't even know it's the mind. Like we just don't even know. We think it's us,
Yeah.
and it's really the mind.
Yeah.
Okay, share
Yeah.
more.
So I came into this understanding, and I've listened to a few spiritual teachers or pointers, as I call them, and through different
What?
phases in my
Sorry,
journey.
what was that you
Pointers,
said?
spiritual teachers or pointers, people who
Pointers. Okay, got
I
it.
like to call them pointers. You'll find that I'm a person, I don't like to be regarded as an expert in anything, or I say to even my patients, I tell my patients all the time, hey, I have a skill set. I'm educated in a skill set and I have information, knowledge, but you're the expert of you. So let's
Mhm,
keep that clear. And that's
mhm.
how I operate. So, I
Okay.
never wanted to be regarded as a teacher or an expert per se, but through the grace of God and through where I've been able to experience the full manifestation of being in God's energy,
Mhm,
I'm happy to just share that space with anyone who has the intuition toward it, whether they know it or not. Um,
mhm,
and so not to go off on a tangent, but we have to be able to understand that this person that we so closely identify with, the me, we need to, if you tell somebody, tell me about yourself, oh, I'm a mother, or, they'll
mhm,
name their profession, they'll name their religion, they'll name all of these identifiers about the person that we connect to
mhm,
so hard have distracted us. And maybe by God's design, have so
mhm,
distracted us from the understanding that that is not who we are.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so, in the simplest forms and the simplest way I can express it, how it's come to my experience is that, okay, God, if God is the creator, then I'm just creation.
mm,
If God is the
mhm,
creator,
mhm,
I'm creation,
mhm,
which means that I have all of the qualities and attributes of God.
mhm,
But that is not a space that can be occupied by the person in the mind. The mind
mm,
is barrier
mhm,
to that. And so,
mhm,
and it's not to condemn thinking. I mean, God gave us this the human body is the most wonderful advanced piece of technology that's ever been created by no
mhm,
one, by no
mhm,
one. It
mhm,
is the most wonderful thing that's never been created by a person, right?
mhm. Right, right, right. I got
And
that.
so the mind is a beautiful, wonderful thing that God gave us as this instrument to navigate our human experience. But
Mhm,
somewhere along the way in our human evolution, we started to identify with our person in our mind as being the end all be all.
mm,
And we put the
mhm,
mind in charge of the experience.
mhm,
And you said something earlier, and I heard this on a random comedy show I was watching the other day, and it was so profound and simple. The man said, you let your mind become the boss when it should be your employee. Yes, people, yes. You
That's
left the
right.
mind, and yes, there was a period of time, and that's why I didn't want to be here anymore, but I didn't understand how to make that connection. I didn't want to be
Right.
here anymore because I understood somewhere deep down in my spirit, without being able to really tap into what it was at the time. I was such in a battle with my mind and with the knowing, with the universal consciousness. And that battle almost resulted in me saying, F it. I don't want to do none
Right.
of it.
Mhm.
And so when I came into this beautiful space of understanding that God, I'm just here to have a human experience, but this
Mhm.
person is not the end all be all. Spirit I was before I came into this body,
Mm.
spirit I am in this body, spirit
Mhm.
I will be when I am no longer in this body. That's my God energy. And so
Mm.
for me, through the teachings of various teachers, and right now I'm in a space and I have been for some time where I really, really, really resonate with the pointings of Muji.
Mhm.
So a lot of the things that I share with people are no, they're not original thoughts. They are
Mhm.
the guidance and the teachings from this very powerful man, and it's Muji, Moojiji. For anybody who cares to look, um, the pointings and the way that he has allowed God to express what this state of presence awareness is really all about has just
Mhm.
settled so beautifully and peacefully in my spirit. So I encourage anyone who has the intuition toward this, and when I say the intuition toward this, the intuition toward true freedom, true
Mhm.
unconditional freedom. I would
Mm.
definitely encourage that you look up some of his videos on YouTube or, wherever.
Mhm.
And that has helped me.
That's
And then we
helped you.
talked about different teachers out there. Eckhart Tolle is one that we're both
Mhm.
very familiar with. For me, it was one time Abraham Hicks. I was big on Abraham Hicks when we talk about
Mhm.
being addicted to practices and things like that.
Yeah.
So I like the teachings and the guidings of Michael Beckwith. But
Mhm.
these are just people who God has, I think, used in a different way in my life in order to keep shining the light of awareness in different times because I'm still getting different. I'm still receiving different things, all related to the same thing, but I'm receiving it in different levels of understanding. I don't want to get too deep into that right now because that's my experience. Um,
Okay. Well, I wanted to say
yeah.
last Friday, I was, I think sometimes this is what happens to me, T. I read so much.
Mhm,
I take all these classes. And
mhm,
honestly, I felt last week my brain is tired. This
mhm,
great learning, you know, how the Bible says this great learning has made you mad.
mhm,
That's what
mhm,
King Agrippa told Paul. This great learning has made you mad. And that's how I felt last Friday. Like, I can't, it's just too much going on in life. And then I'm reading all this stuff and I'm addicted. I'm trying to get a change.
yeah,
And then you said, well, let's just sit here and not record.
yeah.
And you just started talking. I remember that. And then you did an exercise with me where I just got into that space of nothing. And it was so powerful. So, what does my addictive personality do? Okay, so all week I've been working on it.
But that's a
And
part of
when
the process. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, what I tell you, I literally moved into the guest bedroom for the
Okay.
last 2 days because I just wanted to wake up and I didn't want to wake my husband up. And I just wanted just to learn the teachings and just to do it. And when
Mhm.
I tell you I'm in a different place, I still got stuff going on, but I
Yeah.
just feel like, hey,
I love it. I love it. I
yeah,
love
it's just such a good feeling. And it's
Martha.
the feeling of I don't have to control all this stuff.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
have to because that's
Yes.
what I'm always, ever since I was young, people came to me to solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my family, my friends, I mean, church. It was always, and I think I recognized that I think I was tired.
Yeah.
I was just tired. I can't
Mhm.
anymore. I
Yeah.
can't. But the way it was, it wasn't as simple as like, I can't, I'm not doing it. It
Right.
was as simple as the awareness.
Yeah.
Just be the witness to
Yeah.
that. And
You know.
it was just so peaceful. So that's why I thought
Yeah.
she's got to talk about this because I've
Yeah.
been feeling like pumped.
I love that. I love that. And that was such a beautiful, oh my God. I wish I could help you to understand how much that blessed my soul because we did come together last Friday and like we do to with the intention to record.
Mhm.
And I just was so present, and I am always present because this is something that never leaves you, but we'll get into that later. But just
Mhm.
being in that moment of absolute presence with you, it
Mhm.
just, it was, I don't know what I said. I don't know. I
Mhm.
just know that we shared a moment together that was so pure and peaceful and still. And I
Yeah.
think we were silent more than we said words, but it was, there was communication there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And
That's a
so,
good way. That's a good way to
yeah,
put it.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
I say that to say I'm grateful to have had that time with you. It wasn't just for you, you know, that was
Mhm.
a beautiful connection that we shared both. There's no your consciousness, my consciousness. There's one consciousness. In that
One
moment,
consciousness.
that moment, you and I were on that one consciousness energy. There's no
Awesome.
separation between you and I and this and that. Yeah, that was a beautiful moment, and I'm very
Yeah.
grateful for it. And so, you know, you
Yeah.
mentioned something earlier about the addictive to practicing, right? And so I identify with that. You know, there was a time where I was searching, not even really knowing what I was searching for. And I was
Right. Mhm.
just busy doing something to look like I was doing something. So, you know, I'm
Mhm.
going to church
Mhm.
on the, you know, Sunday, Wednesday Bible study, outreach, this and I'm reading and I'm doing and I'm doing and then I'm praying and and all of
That
that is
was
purposeful. All of that is purposeful, and there's nothing
yeah.
wrong with it. But here's where the pitfall comes in. This is where you start to give it to the mind. And the ego
Mhm.
mind, I've come to understand, is so cunning and so, it will ebb and flow right along with you because we almost think when we say the word ego, 9 times out of 10, we just think of an arrogant, cocky person and we put it in this
Right.
negative context. Ego can present itself as something very altruistic, very spiritual. Ego can take on a spiritual form. Oh, of course it can.
Mm.
Oh, of
Mm.
course
Say
it
more
can.
about that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, get into it. Ego can take on all kinds of forms. And
Mhm.
so, you know, in the practice of and in the habitual doing of, we give things to the mind, and sometimes we don't even identify it because we're doing a spiritual practice, you know. And
Right.
again, no disrespect to anybody's techniques, practices,
Mhm. Mhm.
approaches, but there for me, I will say there came a point where I identified, or through the grace of God, not even I, the grace of God helped me to identify, oh, I just keep giving it to my mind with
Mm.
the notion that I'm being spiritual. I keep
Mm.
giving it to the mind with the notion I'm being spiritual. I'm just going to stay on this cycle. So we talked about suffering
Mhm.
earlier. Suffering has purpose.
Mhm.
And I believe suffering's purpose is to bring us closer to God. Not
Mm.
in the sense that we're obligated to suffer to get close to God, because literally it's not. God doesn't
Mhm.
require that. God doesn't require anything, honestly.
Mhm.
God doesn't
Mhm.
require that we get on our knees and pray. God doesn't require that we open this book and read. God doesn't require
Mhm.
that we sit and meditate. God doesn't require
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
God is the creator and we personify God. I don't want to jump around. We're going to get to that. But when we talk about the suffering, you said earlier, I'm just sick and tired. I'm tired. I'm sick and I'm working and that was my experience at one point where I said
Mhm.
I didn't want to
Mhm.
be. I'm just tired now. Now I'm just tired. That's where
Mhm.
it can come in at the most opportune moment when you just want to put it all down and be done with
Yes.
it. That
Yes.
is a beautiful moment.
That's
That
the
is an
moment.
amazing moment
Yes,
when
that's
you
the
just are
moment.
sick and tired of being sick and tired and you want to put it down and you don't want to do it no more. God, that is
Mm. Mm.
that's a
Yes.
beautiful
Yes.
moment to be in, because
That's
that's when
the
God is
moment.
like, okay, now where
That's
else
what
you
it
gonna
was
go?
last Friday.
Yeah, where
Mhm.
else you gonna go? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, because
Mhm.
in this game of life that we're all here to play,
Mhm.
consciousness is the one thing that can never be removed and you still be able to have any experience on any level.
Mm.
Consciousness is the one thing we cannot, with all this infinite technology and intellectual minds that we cannot still definitively explain consciousness. We can't study it under a microscope. We can't point to it. We can't put it on a map. We can't give it coordinates. We can barely give it language.
So when you say consciousness, more
Mhm.
so for our listeners,
Yeah.
Yeah, just define that so they'll know what, because some people may not have even heard the term.
Consciousness is another word. It's God, it's universe, it's source energy, it's the great I am, it's the truth. It whatever word you put to it, it's that thing that you can't take away. If there's one thing that in the human experience you removed it and you would no longer have an experience of any type, it's consciousness.
It's
Whatever word you
consciousness.
want to put on it, that's what it is. The divine,
Hmm.
and that's why I said earlier, the more I'm in this experience, or it's not even experience, the more that I am in my true God energy, the less
Hmm.
capable I am to putting words to it. Because in order to put
Hmm.
words to things, we have to give it to our mind, right? And I'm
Hmm.
not demonizing the mind. God gave us this beautiful, wonderful mind as an instrument to navigate our experience in this life, right?
Hmm.
So I'm not condemning the mind. And I said earlier, this human vessel that we have, this is the most beautiful, advanced piece of technology that no man has ever created. This
Hmm.
is God. So no,
Hmm.
we don't condemn the body, the mind, any of that. But we are here to transcend those things. And so if you have an intuition toward this type of teaching, toward these pointings, then you will have an intuition to understand that I came here to have a human experience. Spirit I
Hmm.
was before I came into this body, spirit I am in this body, and spirit I will remain when this body is no longer in this physical world. So
Hmm.
if you have
Hmm.
an intuition toward that, then you come to understand that these things, that language and emotions and all of these human attributes
Hmm.
serve a purpose, but we have allowed them to be the main focus and really the end all be all of our experience in this world.
Hmm.
And that's where the suffering becomes something that's detrimental and not something that is forward moving and progressive in connecting to that source energy, right? And so I'm
Hmm.
saying, it can be simple. It is actually quite simple, but the complication comes in. Can you transcend the mind? Can you identify that the person and the mind are a level of consciousness, but it's not the ultimate I, God, source, divine, insert whatever
Hmm.
word you want to. But try to be in that space where you're not caught up on the language and the personal attributes, right? Because we have,
Okay.
by and large, I feel like we've personified God. We've given God these personal qualities. Especially in certain religions, you've heard of the vengeful God and the wrathful God, and God will punish you, or God will bless you, or God is not a
Hmm.
man or a woman. God knows the play of humanity is just this person having this experience in life, but God is not sitting keeping tabs and waiting to, like we made God
Yeah.
kind of petty some in the way I feel.
Right.
I don't want to be disrespectful, but we have made God a little bit petty because we've made God like us, like the person. No.
That's a very good point because
Yeah.
that's how we are as human
Yeah.
beings.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
judgmental with this,
Yeah.
with yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 No, I get that. Okay. So how did you get into the teachings of Muji consciousness? How
Um,
long has it been?
I would say intentionally, it's probably been about, so I've been on a very intentional spiritual journey now for some years. Oh gosh, maybe. So if I'm 45, I think I identified as coming into my spiritual intentional consciousness at about age 12, 13. And so I'll just kind of fast forward coming
Did you
into
say 12,
this
13?
12, 13 is when I
Oh,
became
wow.
intentional about
Mhm.
connecting to God. That was the
Okay.
intention. And so along the way, there have been different phases in my life where I've
Mhm.
adopted different practices or ways that I thought I was connecting to God that all
Mhm.
just the grace of God have led up to this point. And so I've been kind of following, to answer your question specifically, I've been following specifically the pointings of Muji for probably the past 4 years, I would say,
Okay.
about
Okay.
4.
Mhm.
Um, and so, and it's just by the grace. I don't even remember a time where I don't remember the first video I came across. I don't remember, like, it was
Uh-huh.
almost just like spirit presented it to me, like, here's the next step of your evolution.
Mhm. Okay. And then it kind of
And it
happened.
just resonated so peaceful. It was the one guidance that felt so beautifully effortless. It was the one thing that I didn't feel like required work. And so
Yeah,
that's
that's
why
a
I
good
stuck
way to
with
put
it.
it.
It took the work away.
Yeah. It took
Yeah.
the work away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That would be a good way to describe it. Yeah. So what would you say have been the biggest changes in your life that you've seen with practicing this? Like what's the biggest benefits? Like I know you've gotten peace, but if you had to look at it just from a worldly standpoint, what do you feel like wow, this has occurred since I've
Yeah.
been practicing this?
Yeah. So when we talk about the worldly perspective, my internal world has just changed.
Mhm.
My internal world has evolved. One thing Muji says so beautifully is that there's one earth, but there's billions of worlds because we all live in a
Mhm.
creation that we create here typically.
Right.
And
Okay.
so my internal world is what's been most changed, evolved, affected. And ultimately, it is because my internal state has become what it, or I've discovered this internal state. My external world is just a reflection of that. And so
Mm.
when I said earlier, for anyone who has an intuition to have true freedom, true unconditional freedom, that's what this is. My
Mhm.
happiness, my contentment, my peace, my stillness is not predicated on any condition in my life.
Mhm.
And so ultimately, as I said earlier, I'm so in love with living life now. Now I'm
Yeah.
in love with living life because
Mhm.
now I have this level of awareness that no matter what I'm going through, the good or the bad, as we talk about words, the wanted or the unwanted,
Right.
it's just a play of life. But there's
Mm.
something beyond that that's unmoved,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
timeless, that's
Mhm.
formless, that has no
Mhm.
beginning or no end, that has no birth or no death. That is the I am. That is source
Mm.
energy. That's my God power. And so
Mm.
yeah, I still go through things. I still go through life. I still go to work. I still have relationships and I still, yeah, I have all the gamuts of human emotion. But now I have this level of awareness that I
Mhm.
understand it's the play of life. And
Mm.
especially if I'm having an unwanted experience or a negative emotion or thought process, now I don't follow that anymore. It used to be a time where I would have a negative thought or
Mhm.
any thought, but let's be clear, we don't usually chase positive thoughts. We chase the negative ones, is what we do. We're conditioned. We're conditioned. And
That's for
so,
sure.
I would have a thought and I'd just chase it. I would just go down the rabbit hole with it. Now, if
Mhm.
I have a thought, it's like another analogy, beautiful analogy Muji gives. It's like the sky, looking at the sky. Yeah, sometimes the sky has clouds. Do we condemn the sky to say, oh, I don't want to look at you today, you got clouds? No, let the clouds out.
Mm.
So now I regard my thoughts, especially if I'm in a mode of negative thinking, I just look at the cloud past. But I'm still the sky. I'm still
Mhm.
the sky. I'm a little
Mhm.
cloudy right now, but those clouds are gonna move
Mhm.
away. Yeah.
Mhm. Wow. Wow. I love that. So, have you found that, like, I know we did the exercise or whatever you want to call it last Friday, but have you done this with anybody else
No.
and taught them
Well,
how?
I don't know, because here's the thing. I don't regard it what we did as a practice. We just sat in presence of God at an appointed time. That was
Mm-hmm.
not orchestrated by me, you, or anyone. That was divinely orchestrated by the universe. That was universal consciousness, universal love coming together. So I say
Mm-hmm.
that to say, have I shared and sat with people like this before? Yeah, I don't look at it as a practice. I look at it as
Mm-hmm.
a privilege. I look at it as an honor. I look at it now as though I'm so blessed to have tapped into this God energy. I'm happy to just sit with anyone in this space, and we can call it whatever
Mm-hmm.
we want to call it, but let's just
Mm-hmm.
sit in space. And if we're using words, great. Let those words be divinely guided. And if we're sitting in silence, let it be beautiful. And that's what I like the most about how we interacted last Friday. I think we sat in silence more than we actually said words. But there was
Mm-hmm.
absolute communication happening in a sense
Mm-hmm.
that it was beyond, it was a thoughtless, for me, a thoughtless communication.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was in a state of complete thoughtlessness
Mm-hmm.
in the most beautiful way.
in the
And
most
so,
beautiful way.
we use terms like mindfulness and then
Mm-hmm.
or mindlessness, and I feel like we use those terms almost incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
So this has kind of been my kind of silly way of communicating with spirits. Like, okay, mindfulness. Well, we regard mindfulness as this state that we want to get to. Like we sit and meditate so we can be mindful. Let's be less of mind. Let's be mindless.
That
Okay?
is
Let's be
mindless.
less of mind.
Yeah.
And so we say
Yeah.
mindless
Yeah.
in a negative regard, like, oh, you're just doing that mindlessly. No, let's flip that thing around. All right. I don't want to be mindful. I want to be full of mind. Less
Yes.
mind.
Oh my God. Mm.
Less
Come
mind,
on.
more God energy.
Okay. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. That just makes sense. Because we're always full of the mind. That's why we're running around like we're half crazy half the time.
Stop
I
teaching
like
people
it.
to be mindful. We don't want it anymore.
Mm. I think you
Revert.
did. So that's a lot. That's a word. Yeah. Mm. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. Because that's what got us to the point where we are. Like,
That's what gets in trouble. Being so full of mind.
yeah, so full of the mind. Well, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta
So,
keep that. Yeah.
yeah.
I love
So
that.
as you said earlier, I
Mm,
don't want you to just keep the awareness. So you came into a beautiful awareness that, I'm addicted to certain things. And we talked earlier offline about what addiction looks like for some people. Some people only paint addiction in the space of a negative substance abusive type of experience.
mm-hmm.
Be addicted. Anything done in excess is probably not going to be good. So we talked earlier about a person being addicted to working out. There are people who are
Mm-hmm.
killing themselves in the vein of being healthy because they're
Yes.
addicted to anything that has an addictive quality means you've given it to your mind. And
Mm.
so just be aware. So, okay, I'm addicted to doing practices. Now
Mm-hmm.
that I've been introduced to this Muji thing, now I'm addicted. It's not a bad addiction, but
Right.
the awareness of that, because that is
Right.
still
Yes.
of mind, that is still of your person, and it's fine. It is fine. It's still grace that has you to even have this awareness. Stay
Mm-hmm.
with the awareness.
Mm.
And the more you
Mm.
stay with the awareness, there is a way that there will come a time where the mind is just going to give up. It's because it's not going to have any power anymore. And that's where
Anymore.
the
Right.
complication comes from. We
Mm-hmm.
are so conditioned toward mental processing and mind activity that to take activity and attention away from the mind feels so uncomfortable. The mind doesn't want to give that up. They don't want to give up that
Right.
position. And so as you continue to sit in your space of awareness with no judgment, no condemnation, no, just you have a thought. Okay, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
I see it. I see it. I see it. Stay in
Mm-hmm.
that space. Eventually the ego's gonna be like, God damn, I can't even, like, I'm trying to get you, but you can't. And then there'll be a time where you'll be identified. And here's the irony of it for me.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until, so again, we talk about this consciousness, this awareness. You can't give it to the mind because the mind can't take you there, right? So in order to be able to even resonate with being in this God energy, you almost have to have a period of just being able to reflect, right? So I say that
Right.
to say I
Mm-hmm.
can now reflect on moments where I'm in this state of pure presence, thoughtlessness. In that
Mm-hmm.
moment, I can't because God is beyond. This is a space this is where awareness, there's no further awareness.
Mm-hmm.
There's nowhere else to go, right? So when you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of in that space, you can only really acknowledge it when you're back into the mind. That I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
complicate it, so I'm gonna stop saying it. I'm gonna stop there. But just everybody's going to have their own experience. And that's where the thing with
Right.
practices and techniques come in to almost being detrimental because a person can tell you to do a practice. And if you do the practice correctly, you're going to feel it here. You're going to feel it in your solar plexus
Then
or your crown chakra.
yes.
Nothing's wrong with any of that. But again, we're giving it to the mind. If I tell you to do this thing and wait for this experience, you automatically have given it to the mind.
To the mind.
All I'm
Ah, I
suggesting is
see.
that you sit in awareness, drop everything else, drop every type of identification with personhood in
Mm-hmm.
mind. Just drop it for a moment. It won't leave you. It'll be there when you come back to it. But just drop that for a moment. That's where God energy is. That's where the
Well,
presence of God
say
is.
more about that because like when you say the awareness
Mhm.
and all of that, like, and that's even what our podcast is about,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But when
Yes.
you say that for somebody who doesn't really know,
Okay.
what does that look like? Do you
Right.
get what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
if to kind of point them into that direction, what does that look like? Like,
So think about anything that you're paying your attention to. So we use language and we have a saying that we're paying attention to something. Think about what
mm-hmm,
that means. When you're paying attention to something, it is just another way of saying that's what you're aware of right now. That
right.
attention has your
Mm-hmm.
awareness in that moment. That is actually your God energy, whether that attention is pointed in a negative way or a quote unquote positive way. That is your God energy.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it
Okay.
like this. If a person is still alive, but they're in a coma and they have no
Mm-hmm.
level of consciousness, you could literally pinch that person as hard as you could. They wouldn't have a pain response
You're right.
because right now they're not in a state of conscious awareness. They're just a body.
Okay. Right.
Okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of it's kind of like that in my mind, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, God, if I took consciousness away from my human experience, what experience would I have? There would be no experience to have. But the
Mm.
fact that I am able to pay attention to certain things, that's that's my God energy. I can give my attention towards something and I can be
Oh.
aware of it and I can
Mm-hmm.
have perception of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's, I believe, kind of what separates man as a species from any other biological form of life on this planet is that ability to say, I know what my intentions pointed toward.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. I see
And
that.
so, and it's kind of coming when we were sitting and talking Friday, and I think Spirit said something along the lines of, you made a comment about, oh God, I don't want to try to read.
Mm-hmm.
You made
Mm-hmm.
a comment, something to the effect of you were going to do some, you, no, you made a comment referring to something like, I just feel like I need to fix this or something. I,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just said, okay, well, be aware of that. Pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to that person who feels like they need to find a solution. Don't condemn
Mm-hmm.
them. Just pay attention to that person. Don't pay attention to the emotion and the thought. Pay attention to that energy that feels like that's necessary. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about awareness, it's really just what you're intentionally paying your attention to.
Mm.
So now I
Okay.
look at my attention and my energy are like currency to me.
Mm.
Okay. I know where
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pay it toward and I know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to get back and my
Mm-hmm.
seeing my attention and energy toward that thing. And so now
Okay.
my existence is okay. If anything, I'm just going to keep my attention on the awareness.
On the
That's going to
awareness.
give me
Mm-hmm.
maximum returns on my investment.
Mm-hmm.
Go too far
Mm-hmm.
down the analogy.
Mm-hmm. And something else I was learning is that once you, let's say, and I don't mean this in a religious way, but once you give it to God or
Mm-hmm,
consciousness,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
um, life has a way of working out
Yes.
on its own. And
Uh-huh.
so it just takes away from always trying to create or,
Yes.
I love creating life. Like, that doesn't always work out the way I'm creating it. Mind you, let me tell you that.
Yeah.
However, just listening to that, just letting life
Do
do
life.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just even like such a peaceful way
Yes.
to even look at
Yeah.
life
And
because it takes away from all this trying, striving.
yes.
That's the word, the
Yeah.
striving. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why the teaching of
Mhm.
illusion for me have settled so peacefully in my spirit. And, kind of to help, illustrate what that looked like for me. So I said I was on an intentional spiritual journey from probably about age 12, 13. Probably about age 40, I started to shift very naturally away from religion. That was my journey. I'm
Mhm.
not telling anybody to move away from religion. My
Right,
journey.
right.
I started to shift away from the practice of religion.
Mhm.
At that time, I started heavily listening to Abraham Hicks, who's all about the
Mhm.
power of manifestation.
Mhm.
And those teachings for me were so valuable in the sense that it really did help me to tap into my God power, but in a very physical way, because it's all
Mhm.
about manifesting things. And, and
Mhm.
so I was starting to see my powers of manifestation. That's such
Mhm.
a word now, like, well, anyway.
Right.
I
Yeah.
started to see
Yeah.
my powers of manifestation and I got so excited and I was in that space for some time, right? And it was very
Mhm.
effective. And I could see things happening in real time just by
Mhm.
me being aware that I could literally think of something and then it be in my experience.
Mhm.
Like literally,
Mhm.
it was happening
Yeah.
like, and I was getting
Yeah.
so, I was like, oh God, this is crazy. Like, I just think about this thing and it's there. Like,
Right.
I'm not even like exaggerating. I could think of something and then
Mhm.
within a short period of time, it would be a part of my experience. So I started to get
Right.
super excited, right? And as I continued down that path, it felt good for the moment. It served for the moment. And then through again the grace of God, I started to become into this awareness. Okay, but I'm still giving it to my mind though. Still giving it
Mm.
to my mind.
It's
So
still a
if I
mind
don't,
thing.
yeah, so if I fail in manifesting that thing that I want to manifest, then I feel this way, and then that takes me to this mode of
Mhm.
thinking and feel, okay, I've still given it to the mind. And God
Mhm.
had me in a situation in 2021. I was in a pretty significant car accident that, it's done,
Mm.
but at the time seemed very impactful. And I remember sitting thinking, God, I didn't manifest this because I had been riding high for a minute, girl. I have
Mm.
been not a cloud in the sky, bright sunny days. I'm feeling invincible. I'm in my God
Right.
energy. I'm in my God flow. You can't touch me.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
I just minding my black owned business, doing my black job, minding my black business. I had this car accident on this beautiful sunny day where I was planning to have this one. And he said, as I was going through the process of dealing with insurance company and dealing with, repair and dealing with all of the things that come with having a car and dealing with my body, because, thank God I
Mhm.
wasn't seriously injured, but there was some injury there. Manifested. Where did this come from? All this manifesting I've been doing and this? No, 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 no. But that was the experience that God helped me to go through to understand, because there came a point in time where I was like, okay, I'm going through all this and I'm frustrated every day. And I've been riding so high on this God
Right.
energy for so long. I haven't had a frustrating moment in my life up until now. And now I'm frustrated every day. I don't want this anymore. I want my peace
Mm.
back.
Mhm.
That's it. I just want my peace back. And so God kind of used that experience
Mhm.
to help me identify where I was still giving things to my mind. And so that's kind of what helped me to get oriented in another way of manifesting, but not manifesting, an effortless, non putting in work type of